late September sun hung low over Thibodaux, Louisiana, painting Bayou Lafourche in shades of amber and rust. The air was thick, not just with humidity, but with the weight of 1,000 secrets this small town had kept for generations. The kind of secrets that turned neighbors into strangers and truth into something flexible, depending on who wore the badge. 7-year-old Mia Dupre knew nothing about secrets. Not yet. She knew about crawfish boils at her pawpaw's bait shop. She knew the difference between a water moccasin and a harmless garden snake. She knew that when September came, the cypress trees along the bayou started their slow transformation from green to gold, and the smell of sugarcane harvest mixed with the perpetual scent of mud and green water. And on this particular afternoon, crouched behind a stack of minnow buckets outside Pawpaw's Cajun Bait and Tackle on Highway 1, Mia learned something else. Sometimes the most dangerous people wear the shiniest badges. U.S. Marshal Raymond Cole didn't notice the small girl watching him. Why would he? He was the town hero, decorated federal officer, deacon at St. Joseph Cathedral. The man who'd cleaned up 3 parishes worth of criminal elements, his words, and made Lafourche County safe for good people again. Mia watched as Marshal Cole's black Suburban pulled into the gravel lot of Beauchamp's Roadhouse across the highway. The Roadhouse was a weathered cypress wood structure that had survived Hurricane Betsy in '65, Hurricane Andrew in '92, and every storm since. It was where the Crimson Bayou Motorcycle Club gathered every Thursday evening, 9 men in leather vests with a patch showing a coiled water moccasin over a fleur-de-lis. Her pawpaw had told her about them. "Them boys look scary, Bebe, but they got good hearts. Last April, when my truck died in that flash flood on the Levee Road, it was Andre Gator Thibodaux who stopped. Worked in knee-deep water for an hour getting my engine running. Wouldn't take a dime. Said, 'We take care of our own down here, old man. You're Louisiana. That makes you family.'" Mia had seen Gator at the Piggly Wiggly once. He was huge, maybe 6'3", with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and a beard that reached his chest. His arms were covered in tattoos of alligators and cypress trees and words in French she couldn't quite read. He'd looked terrifying until he'd helped an elderly woman reach something on a high shelf, his voice gentle and patient. Now, watching Marshal Cole park his Suburban and pull out a black duffel bag, something cold twisted in Mia's stomach. Cole looked around that quick, careful scan cops do when they don't want to be seen. Then he walked to where 9 Harley-Davidson motorcycles sat in a perfect line outside Beauchamp's. The bikes gleamed in the late afternoon sun, chrome reflecting light like mirrors. Cole knelt beside the first bike. Mia couldn't see exactly what he was doing. He was mostly hidden between the motorcycles, but she saw him pull something from the duffel bag. Clear plastic bags, maybe 5 or 6 of them, each about the size of a loaf of bread, filled with white powder. Even at 7, Mia knew what drugs looked like. They'd had an assembly at school. Officer Friendly had shown them pictures. If you see something like this, tell a trusted adult immediately. But Marshal Cole was a trusted adult. He came to school assemblies. He gave out badges to kids who did good deeds. Mia watched as Cole secured something beneath each motorcycle's zip ties, she thought, like the ones Pawpaw used to bundle fishing rods. She heard the click, click, click of plastic tightening. Then Cole pulled out his phone and made a call. "It's done," he said, his voice carrying across the highway in the still air. "Yeah, all 9 bikes. Evidence tags match case 147B. GPS trackers are active." He paused, listening. "No, nobody saw me. Look, Marcus, I've been planning this for 8 months. These Crimson Bayou degenerates have been a stain on this parish since 2013. People are scared to drive Highway 1 at night. Businesses are closing. This is surgical removal of a cancer." Another pause. "We move at 6:30 p.m. They'll be inside eating dinner. We roll up with federal warrant, find the product, arrest all 9, and by this time tomorrow, Thibodaux is clean again. Trust me, once these outlaws are in federal custody, the whole parish will thank us." He hung up, loaded the empty duffel bag into his Suburban, and drove away, headed toward the federal courthouse in Houma, Mia guessed. She stood there for a long moment, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. The Crimson Bayou MC wasn't dangerous. Paw had said so. But Marshall Cole was planting drugs under their motorcycles. Drugs with evidence tags, official police evidence being used to frame innocent people. And in 90 minutes, those men would be arrested for something they didn't do. Mia looked at Beauchamp's Roadhouse across the highway. Through the windows, she could see the 9 bikers sitting around a long table, sharing platters of boudin and fried catfish. They were laughing. One of them, a younger guy with sleeve tattoos, was showing something on his phone to the others. They looked so normal, just men eating dinner together. Then Mia remembered the stories. Her teacher, Mrs. Fontenot, always said bikers were dangerous. The pastor at Street, Josephs, had preached about elements that threaten our community's values. Kids at school said the Crimson Bayou MC sold drugs and hurt people. But Pawpaw's truck, the woman at Piggly Wiggly, and now Marshall Cole, the supposed hero, planting evidence. Mia made a decision that would change everything. She crossed Highway 1, her small sneakers crunching on gravel. The Roadhouse door was heavy old cypress wood scarred by decades of hurricane debris and hard living. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The conversation stopped like someone had flipped a switch. 9 pairs of eyes turned toward her. 9 men in leather vests, bearing patches that said Crimson Bayou MC and Louisiana Original Outlaws. The youngest looked maybe 30. The oldest gator, she recognized him, had to be pushing 60. Mon Dieu, someone whispered. That's a child. Mia's mouth went dry. Her legs trembled. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but Pawpaw's words echoed. They got good hearts, BB. I need to talk to y'all, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Gator stood slowly, his chair scraping across worn floorboards. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Tall, broad-shouldered, weathered face, marked by years of sun and storms. But his eyes were gentle. You lost, little one? His Cajun accent softened the words. What's your name, Cher? Mia Dupre. My pawpaw runs the bait shop across the highway. Recognition crossed another biker's face, a man with a red bandana and a gray-streaked beard. Old Claude's granddaughter? Yes, sir. I'm Andre, Gator said, kneeling to her level. But everyone calls me Gator. This is Marcel, Jean-Paul, Pierre, Louis. He introduced each man. They nodded, their expressions confused, but not threatening. Why you here, Mia? Gator asked gently. Something wrong? Mia took a shaky breath. You have to check under your motorcycles. Right now, please. The air changed, hands tensed, eyes sharpened. Check under our bikes? Marcel repeated slowly. Why? Because Marshall Cole just put drugs under all of them. Clear bags with white powder. He was on the phone saying he has a federal warrant coming at 6:30. He's going to arrest all of you for drugs you don't have. Complete silence. Even Lila, the 50-year-old waitress who'd worked at Beauchamp since before Mia was born, froze with a pitcher of sweet tea suspended in midair. Gator studied Mia's face. You saw this? Yourself? Yes, sir. I was at Pawpaw's shop. Marshall Cole pulled up in his black Suburban. He had a duffel bag. He put bags under each bike and then called someone named Marcus. He said, you're a cancer, and this is surgery. He said by tomorrow, Thibodeau would be clean. Jean-Paul, a younger member with crawfish tattoos running up both arms, cursed softly in French. That son of a Pierre started, but Gator held up a hand. Easy. Gator's voice carried quiet authority. Mia, why you telling us this? Your teachers, your pastor, everybody in this town probably told you we're dangerous. Why risk coming here? Mia met his eyes. Because you helped my pawpaw when his truck broke down. Because you were nice to the old lady at Piggly Wiggly. Because Marshall Cole is supposed to be good, but he's doing something really, really bad. And, her voice cracked, and somebody had to say something. Gator's weathered face softened. You're a brave little girl, Mia Dupre. Then they heard it. Sirens. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Through the window, Mia saw 3 Lafourche Parish sheriff's cruisers and 2 federal Suburbans pulling into the parking lot, lights flashing. Marshal Raymond Cole stepped out of the lead Suburban, wearing his federal vest and a smile that made Mia's skin crawl. 30 minutes early, Marcel whispered. He moved up the timeline. Gator stood, positioning himself between Mia and the door. Lila, take Mia to the kitchen. Keep her safe. He turned to his brothers. Nobody panic. Nobody reach for anything. We let this play out smart. But Mia shook her head. No, I have to tell them what I saw. Otherwise they'll say you're lying. Child, this could get dangerous. He's framing you, Mia insisted. I saw him. I can tell them. The door burst open. Marshal Cole strode in, with 4 deputies behind him, all armed, all serious. Andre Thibodeau, Cole announced, his voice carrying practiced authority. I have a federal warrant to search your vehicles based on credible intelligence regarding narcotics distribution. I need you and your associates to step outside, hands visible, and comply with federal officers. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Then Mia stepped forward. You're lying, she said, her small voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Cole's head snapped toward her. His expression flickered surprise, then calculation, then something ugly. Little girl, this is official federal business. You need to. You put drugs under their motorcycles, Mia interrupted. This afternoon, at 4:45. I saw you from Pawpaw's shop. You had clear bags with white powder. You put them under all 9 bikes with zip ties. Then you called someone named Marcus and said this was surgical removal of a cancer. The color drained from Cole's face, then returned as red rage. That's absurd. A child's fantasy. Or, his eyes narrowed. Someone put her up to this, coached her. Gator spoke, his voice deadly calm. Nobody coached her, Marshal. But I'll tell you what. Let's make this real simple. You got a warrant to search our bikes? Let's all walk outside together. You, me, your deputies, every person in this roadhouse who wants to witness. We check under those motorcycles together, in plain sight, with plenty of people recording. Whatever we find, we deal with it right here, right now, before God and everybody. I don't negotiate with criminals, Cole spat. Then you got nothing to worry about, Gator replied evenly. If we're criminals with drugs under our bikes, you arrest us and you're the hero. But if this child is telling the truth and looking at your face right now, I think we both know she is, then you got a much bigger problem than a motorcycle club. Cole's hand moved toward his service weapon. Mia saw it. So did the deputies behind him. One of them, a young guy named Deputy Thibodeau, distant cousin to Gator, though neither acknowledged it, stepped forward slightly. Marshal, he said carefully, if the little girl witnessed something, we should probably check. Lot of witnesses here. He gestured to Lila, already recording on her phone, and the 6 other patrons now crowding toward windows. Cole's jaw clenched so tight, Mia heard his teeth grind. Fine, he said finally. We'll do this your way. They filed outside, into the golden late afternoon light. A strange procession. 9 bikers in leather, 1 U.S. Marshal, 4 deputies, 1 Roadhouse waitress with her phone raised, and a 7-year-old girl who'd just become the pivot point upon which truth would turn. The motorcycles gleamed in their neat row. Gator approached his bike first, a vintage Harley, with custom paint showing a water moccasin coiled around a fleur-de-lis. He knelt slowly, making sure everyone could see. His face went completely still. Someone hand me a phone, he said quietly. Everyone needs to see this. Marcel dropped to one knee beside him, activating his phone's camera and flashlight. Sweet Jesus, Marcel breathed. There, zip-tied to the motorcycle frame, were 3 clear plastic bags. Each contained approximately 2 pounds of white crystalline powder. But what made the gathering crowd gasp wasn't just the drugs. It was the evidence tags, clear as day, visible through the plastic. Federal case numbers, Department of Justice seals, and GPS trackers. Their red lights still blinking. Those are federal evidence bags, someone whispered. Official DOJ evidence bags, another corrected. Gator stood, moving methodically down the line. Every motorcycle, same setup. 9 bikes, 27 bags total, all marked with federal case numbers. Deputy Thibodeau was already photographing everything, his young face pale. Marshal Cole, he said, voice cracking. These evidence tags are logged. There's a chain of custody. Every bag checked out of federal evidence has signatures, timestamps. He looked at Cole. Sir, we need to call the FBI field office in New Orleans. Right now. You'll do no such thing, Cole snapped. I am the ranking officer who just got caught, Gator interrupted. Those GPS trackers? They log movements, timestamps, locations. I'm willing to bet when the tech team downloads that data, it'll show exactly when these bags left federal custody and exactly where they went. He stepped toward Cole. Despite being shorter and lighter, Gator somehow seemed to tower. We're taxpayers. We're veterans. Marcel did 3 tours in Afghanistan. Jean-Paul volunteers at the youth center. Pierre donates to Street Vincent de Paul every month. We're the people you swore an oath to protect. His voice dropped lower. Instead, you decided we were too different, too scary, too outside your comfort zone. You decided to destroy us rather than live alongside us. Lila pushed forward, phone still recording. I've known you 22 years, Raymond Cole. Your mama and my mama were in the same church guild. I watched you grow up, and I'm telling you right now, in front of everyone, that you've shamed your badge and shamed this parish. Other voices joined. Mr. Beauchamp, the Roadhouse owner. Mrs. Hebert, whose grandson was one of the deputies. Father Benoit, from Street. Josephs, who'd stopped for dinner and witnessed everything. The tide was turning. People who'd crossed the street to avoid the bikers were now forming a protective semicircle, phones recorded from every angle. And standing at the center of it all, small and brave and terrified, was Mia Dupre, the 7-year-old girl who'd refused to look away. More sirens approached, but these weren't local. 2 black SUVs with FBI emblazoned on the sides pulled into Beauchamp's parking lot, followed by a Louisiana State Police cruiser. The cavalry had arrived, called by someone in the crowd whose sense of justice had cut through decades of fear and prejudice. Special Agent Victoria Landry stepped out of the lead vehicle. Mid-40s, Creole heritage evident in her features, 20 years with the Bureau. She surveyed the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen every kind of corruption the Gulf Coast could produce. Someone want to tell me what's happening here? Her voice carried the authority of federal law, but also the accent of home. She was Louisiana-born, Louisiana-raised. Deputy Thibodeau stepped forward. Ma'am, we have a situation. Marshal Cole executed a federal warrant to search these motorcycles for narcotics. But before the search, this young girl, he gestured to Mia, who clutched Gator's leather vest like a lifeline, came into the Roadhouse and told these men that she'd witnessed Marshal Cole planting the evidence this afternoon. Agent Landry's expression didn't change, but something sharp flickered in her eyes. Planting evidence? Yes, ma'am. We proceeded with the search as a group, with multiple civilian witnesses. What we found. Deputy Thibodeau held up his phone, showing the photographs. Federal evidence bags, DOJ seals, case numbers, GPS trackers, all secured under 9 motorcycles. Agent Landry took the phone, studied the images, and her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She'd been hunting something for months, a pattern of wrongful convictions, evidence that disappeared and reappeared, cases that didn't add up. And now a 7-year-old child had just blown it wide open. Marshal Cole, she said, her voice dangerously calm. You checked these evidence bags out of federal custody? Cole's face had gone from red to gray. There's been a mistake. Someone's trying to frame me. The child is lying or confused. I'm not lying. Mia's voice cracked but held firm. I saw you. At 4:45, you had a black duffel bag. You put bags under all the bikes. Then you called someone named Marcus and said it was time for surgical removal. Agent Landry's head snapped up. Marcus? Marcus Guidry? The name hung in the humid air like a curse. Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcus Guidry, Gator said slowly. The one who's prosecuted every major case in Lafourche Parish for the last 6 years. Agent Landry pulled out her phone and made a call. This is Special Agent Landry. I need an immediate evidence audit for all cases handled by Marshal Raymond Cole and AUSA Marcus Guidry in the last 72 months. Yes, all of them. And I need DOJ Internal Affairs on scene in Thibodaux within the hour. She turned to the deputies. Secure Marshal Cole's vehicle. Nobody touches anything until my team processes it. 2 FBI technicians moved toward Cole's Suburban. What they found in the next 20 minutes would make national news. A tablet tucked under the driver's seat, unlocked, loaded with files. Agent Landry's face went stone cold as she scrolled through it. Years of planning, dozens of names, dates, locations. People targeted for being the wrong kind. Immigrants, people of color, anyone who didn't fit Cole and Guidry's vision of what Thibodaux should be. Sweet Jesus, she whispered. Then louder, we need to review every case Cole touched, every arrest, every conviction, because this, she held up the tablet. This is a conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law. This is systematic, organized, years in the making. Cole tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Marcel, who despite being 47, still moved like the Army Ranger he'd been, tackled him into the gravel. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the sweetest music Mia had ever heard. Raymond Cole, Agent Landry announced, you're under arrest for deprivation of rights, under color of law, planting evidence, conspiracy, and about 15 other federal charges I'll think of on the drive to New Orleans. She read him his Miranda rights while the crowd watched in stunned silence. Then she turned to Mia. Young lady, what's your name? Mia Dupre. Agent Landry knelt down, making herself small and unthreatening. Mia, you did something incredibly brave today. You saw something wrong, and you spoke up, even though you were scared. Do you know how rare that is? Mia shook her head, tears finally starting to fall now that the danger had passed. It's the rarest thing in the world, Agent Landry said softly. And because you had that courage, we're going to be able to help a lot of people who were hurt by what Marshal Cole did. You're a hero, Cher. The next 3 hours were a blur of statements, photographs, evidence collection, and the careful documentation of a corrupt officer's downfall. By the time the FBI vehicles pulled away with Raymond Cole in custody and Marcus Guidry's arrest warrant being executed across town, the sun had set and the Bayou night had descended with its chorus of bullfrogs and crickets. Mia sat on Beauchamp's front steps, exhausted, while her mother, who'd been called and had driven 90 miles an hour from her nursing shift at Ochsner Hospital, held her tight and cried. Gator approached slowly, carrying something small wrapped in a red bandana. Mia, he said quietly, can I talk to you a minute? Her mother nodded permission, though she kept a protective hand on Mia's shoulder. Gator knelt down, this massive, tattooed, terrifying-looking man, and unwrapped the bandana to reveal a leather bracelet. It was simple but beautiful hand-braided leather with a silver fleur-de-lis charm that caught the porch light. This belonged to my daughter, Gator said, his voice rough. Gabrielle. We called her Gabby. She died 5 years ago. Car accident. She was 8 years old. Mia's breath caught. She was brave like you, Gator continued. Always standing up for kids who got bullied. Always doing what was right, even when it scared her. After she died, I kept this bracelet. Couldn't let it go, but I think, his weathered face cracked with emotion, I think she'd want you to have it, because you're the kind of person she was, the kind of person she would have grown up to be. He pressed the bracelet into Mia's small hand. Courage isn't being fearless, little one. It's doing what's right, even when you're terrified. You remember that. Mia threw her arms around his neck and held on tight, and this tough, scarred biker held her like she was precious crystal while her mother cried, and the Crimson Bayou MC9 men, who'd been outcasts for years, finally understood what it felt like to be seen as human. 3 weeks later, Mia sat in her 3rd grade classroom at Thibodaux Elementary, the leather bracelet on her wrist catching morning sunlight through the windows. Life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined. The story had exploded across Louisiana and then the nation. 7-year-old exposes federal corruption ran the headlines. News crews had camped outside her house for days. But Mrs. Fontenot, bless her, had protected Mia from the worst of it, making it clear that in her classroom, Mia was just Mia, a student like any other. But things were different. The FBI's investigation had uncovered 17 cases where Cole and Guidry had planted evidence, targeted innocent people, destroyed lives. 5 people were already released from prison. 12 more cases were under review. And the Crimson Bayou MC? They weren't outlaws anymore. They were heroes. During recess, her best friend Sophie whispered, "My dad said what you did was amazing. He said most grown-ups wouldn't have been brave enough." Mia touched the bracelet. "I just couldn't watch them get hurt for something they didn't do." That afternoon, a letter arrived at school for Mia. Inside was an invitation. "You are invited to the founding ceremony of the Gabrielle Thibodeau Second Chance Scholarship Fund, established to support individuals wrongly convicted through corrupt law enforcement practices and to promote justice and truth in Lafourche Parish." The ceremony was scheduled for Saturday at Beauchamp's Roadhouse. Saturday morning. The Roadhouse had been transformed. Banners hung from the cypress wood rafters. Tables were laden with gumbo, jambalaya, boudin, and crawfish étouffée, a feast prepared by half the parish. Over 200 people had shown up. Mia wore her best dress and the bracelet. Her mother stood beside her, one arm around her shoulders. Pawpaw Claude was there too, tears streaming down his weathered face with pride. Gator took the makeshift stage, just a platform of plywood and 2x4s, but it felt important. "Friends," he began, his Cajun accent thick with emotion. "3 weeks ago, a 7-year-old child did what a whole town of adults couldn't do. She told the truth. Simple as that. She saw something wrong, and even though she was scared, even though everyone told her people like us were dangerous, she chose truth over fear." He gestured to Mia. "That courage changed everything. Because of her, 17 innocent people are getting justice. Because of her, a corrupt system got exposed. Because of her, this town has a chance to be better." The crowd applauded not the polite golf clap of obligation, but real, thunderous appreciation. "So we're establishing this scholarship fund in memory of my daughter Gabrielle, and in honor of Mia Dupre. It'll support people who got wrongly convicted. It'll fight for justice. And it'll make sure what happened here never happens again." The first 2 recipients were introduced. Jerome Washington, a 23-year-old black man who'd spent 3 years in Angola prison for drug possession Cole had planted, and Maria Santos, whose immigrant parents had been targeted by Guidry's cleanup campaign, forcing her to drop out of college to support them. Both were getting full scholarships to Nicholls State University. Both were getting their records expunged. Both were getting a second chance. Mia watched Jerome embrace his crying mother, watched Maria's father, who'd learned to fear anyone in authority, shake Gator's hand with trembling respect. This was what truth looked like. Messy, emotional, complicated, but real. After the ceremony, as the party continued with a live Zydeco band and more food than 3 parishes could eat, Gator found Mia on the porch steps. "You doing okay, petite?" Mia nodded. "Jerome told me thank you. He said I saved his life." "You did. You saved all of them. But I didn't mean to be a hero. I just couldn't let something bad happen." Gator sat beside her, this massive man and this tiny girl, both connected by truth and courage and loss. "That's exactly what heroism is," he said quietly. "Not trying to be brave, just doing what's right. Because you can't not do it. My Gabby was like that. And now you're carrying her spirit forward." Mia touched the bracelet. "I'll take care of it. I promise. I know you will." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset over Bayou Lafourche, listening to accordion music and laughter drifting from inside. 2 months later. The changes in Thibodeau weren't dramatic. They were small, accumulating like drops of water, eventually carving through stone. The Crimson Bayou MC still gathered at Beauchamp's every Thursday, but now shop owners greeted them by name. Children waved at their motorcycles instead of hiding. The walls of prejudice built over 15 years of systematic lies were cracking. Mia's life returned mostly to normal. She was still just a 7-year-old who liked drawing and playing with her friends and helping Pawpaw at the bait shop. But she was also something more now. Proof that courage doesn't require age or size. just heart. On a November morning, crisp and clear, Mia walked to school past houses where people no longer saw her family as oddities but as neighbors. She wore the bracelet, she wore it every day, and thought about Gabrielle Thibodeau, the brave girl she'd never met but whose spirit she carried forward. At the school entrance, Mrs. Fontenot greeted her with a warm smile. "Morning, Mia. Ready for our history lesson? What's the topic? Heroes who changed their communities. I thought we'd start with someone local." Mrs. Fontenot winked. Mia blushed but smiled, because she understood now that heroism wasn't about being special or fearless. It was about seeing something wrong and refusing to look away. It was about choosing truth, even when lies were easier. It was about being brave enough to trust your own eyes in a world that tried to tell you what to see. That afternoon, sitting in Pawpaw's bait shop watching the bayou flow past like liquid copper in the late-day sun, Mia heard the familiar rumble of motorcycles on Highway 1. The Crimson Bayou MC rode past 9 men in leather, chrome gleaming, heading home after some adventure. Gator saw her and raised one tattooed hand in greeting. She waved back, grinning. They weren't outlaws. They never had been. They were just people. Complicated, flawed, kind, loyal people who'd been judged by their appearance instead of their actions. Until one small girl decided to see clearly. Mia Dupre was 7 years old. She liked crawfish boils and drawing pictures and her pawpaw stories. She was still afraid of water moccasins and thunderstorms and the dark, but she was also the girl who'd looked at power and corruption and said no. And in Thibodaux, Louisiana, that November afternoon, with the sun setting gold over Bayou Lafourche and the sound of motorcycles fading into the distance, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.